Finding ways to be financially savvy is a smart move. And knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream home or new ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state. You've got social dialed in. Search is doing its thing. So why do your marketing results look the same as 6 months ago? That's because you're fishing in the same pond as everyone else. Podcast listeners are a different audience entirely. More engaged, harder to reach through traditional channels, and ready to act when someone they trust makes a recommendation. We're Acast, and we put them right in front of you. Browse thousands of the world's leading podcasts, book host reads or run your own ads, and track every conversion in real time. Same skills you already have, brand new results. Acast. Acast.com/advertise.
Oh no.
Adam, the parakeets are out of control.
They are.
There were four in my garden the other day.
Amazing.
I know, and two of them sort of keeping watch while the others feed. It's really intense.
Well, you're feeding them.
I know, it's true. Apparently, a group of parakeets is called a pandemonium.
Oh my gosh, amazing. That brings us to the logbooks, which you're listening to. These are the stories of our lives. We are Adam Zmith
and Tash Walker,
and we're telling tales about history, politics, art, and LGBTQ plus life.
So what's the story, Adam?
What is the story? Well, there's a petition, Tash, that I want to talk about, which is, it's a petition to call for a public inquiry into Section 28, which we've talked about a lot in our work, in the Logbooks podcast and in the Logbooks book, What We Wrote, published by Faber, out now. And so we were both at a conference a couple of months ago in Cambridge, and I was sitting next to a person called Stevie, and the conference was about Section 28 and what had happened and how it influenced, if that's the right word, our generation of queer people. Fucked us up, you might say, is another word for it. And Stevie and a few other people at the conference were like, so enraged by this that they thought what we need is a public inquiry into the long-lasting effects of Section 28. So they set up a petition for that.
Okay, but what is a public inquiry? Public
inquiry is like a sort of quasi-legal process. It has like a sort of statutory weight to it. So it's when the government commissions an investigation into something, and the people who run that public inquiry are independent of government, so it can make lots of recommendations. It's not a political appointment or anything like that. And there are some crucial factors that they have the power to call witnesses to give evidence to that public inquiry, and that those witnesses can include government ministers or previous government ministers. It's a way of looking at something in the public interest and to find out something that went on and to like look at it properly in detail, and then crucially to make recommendations as to what might happen next. And those recommendations are not, the government's not bound to those recommendations, but the government does have to respond to them.
Really important, especially where we are at the moment. And this conference spoke a lot about history repeating itself and Section 28 being the groundwork or foundation for lots of things that are happening today when it comes to trans kids and gender healthcare and trans rights in general. So we're going to put the link to the petition in the show notes. You can also find it online at...
I don't know where it is, but we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I guess it's a it's a petition for a public inquiry, so it's probably like on the Parliament website.
Oh yeah, and Section 28 Film on Instagram. You can find out more details there.
Is that just at Section 28 Film? Okay, great.
Let's have a little break.
Finding ways to be financially savvy is a smart move. And knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream home or new ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Quick question. When was the last time a display ad changed your mind? Now think about the last time a friend told you about something they loved. Different feeling, right? That's how podcast advertising works. A host who's built real trust with their audience talks about your brand in their own words, in their own voice. It doesn't interrupt the experience. It's part of it. With Acast, you can access the world's largest podcast marketplace. Choose the right shows, the right audiences, the right format. Then watch the data tell you it worked. You're not buying impressions. You're buying influence. Learn more by visiting acast.com/advertise.
That sounds like our podcast just got fucked up by ghosts. What is that?
Excellent question, Adam. It's the sound of a fizzing pylon.
Okay.
I actually heard it in Chopwell Woodland Park back in July 2024. And I was walking through this forest. I'd just been recording some interviews for our podcast, The Quilt. I was up in Gateshead and I needed a bit of time afterwards, a bit of a breather, because sometimes after we do interviews, you kind of need space to let it expand out into you and into nature. I headed off and I heard this fizzing sound, what you just heard then. And I just walked towards it. And out of this forest emerged this huge pylon that was making this incredible static noise. And I was completely taken back by it. I'd never heard anything like that before or sort of received it. So I got my recorder out and pressed record. And it was amazing. I don't know whether it's just me and the leaning into of myself, but I felt very connected to this pylon. And later that night, there was a storm and it was like the pylon could pick up on the atmosphere of the storm hours before I could. So
is that actually science?
Yeah, that is actually science.
So the pylon was picking up the electricity that was in the clouds that was getting ready to be a part of the storm.
Exactly. So the pylon
static.
was picking up the static. Yeah. So I sent this recording off to Field Recordings, which is this amazing little podcast where you can just send in literally your field recordings. And Elle McDowell, who runs it, replied back to me and said, "Wow, Tash, this sounds like Sferics." And I had never heard of Sferics. Adam, do you know what a spheric is?
I don't know what a spheric is, and I don't know how to spell it. Is it like sphere, as in like a round, 3D round thing?
No, it's SFERICS.
Okay.
And it's
Sferics.
actually short for atmospherics.
Okay.
So which is, they are also quite amazing sounds. They sort of sound like clicks and pops and crackling. I might be able to play you some later. But what they are is the sounds of lightning. So what I want to talk to you today about is this idea of dancing in the spherics, if you like. So it's something I've been thinking about a lot. And in a very classic Tash way, I've sort of queered the whole thing. But the thing about spherics, just to go back to the science of spherics first, before I sort of blow up this whole thing and tell you what I've been thinking about.
Let's get grounded in the science first before you make it all into queer theory.
So spherics are the sounds of lightning, basically. So lightning is strikes, and then spherics are the reverberations of that, the sounds that go into the atmosphere. So they're atmospherics that happen after lightning strikes, and they're a very low frequency of radio waves, and they're produced by those lightning strikes, and they are audible. They are within the range of human hearing, which is 3 hertz to 3,000 hertz. But all you need is an antenna to be able to hear them. So once you create the antenna, then that can translate all of those spherics into sounds, and they're kind of like clicks and pops and crackling. They sort of sound like little whistles or kids throwing party bangers, those things, or like the sounds of bacon frying. They're really quite amazing.
Pops and crackles.
Totally. They're really magical. Actually, I'll just play you some because then that will really take us into this wonderful world that I'm creating for us. Okay, so these are the sounds of spherics.
Wow, I love that.
What do you think of that?
I love that. That sounds like it sounds like robot birds chatting to each other whilst they're also at a concert where other robot birds are trying to play music. But obviously the music is Bjork.
Yes, exactly. I love that. It is quite Bjork vibe. Yeah. That's a really good reference.
Is there a techno remix of a Sferics recording?
Well, we'll be coming to you soon.
Please, can somebody make that?
Yeah, I'm very available to consult on that.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting about them is once you create this frequency, it's kind of impossible to locate precisely where they came from. Mm-hmm. But what you can connect to is the fact that you are receiving them, that you are hearing them. And the receiver doesn't need to be close to the lightning. It just needs to be tuned in correctly. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like this amazing natural radio. And
by the receiver, you mean that's like an aerial that you use, which picks them up. But you can hear them like naturally without an antenna.
No, you need an antenna to be able to hear them.
Okay.
And the antenna helps you to be able to hear them within that range. So they are all around us, basically. Okay. So we are literally dancing in the Sferics as we walk through the world. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking about this a little bit more, especially after we'd finished doing the book and we'd finished doing the book tour, and how much of the work that we do, which is interviewing people. And it made me think about the pylon back in 2024, how I heard it's static, that it was picking up on all of this atmosphere, all these Sferics that were in the atmosphere before I could even sense that there was a storm coming. And it made me think about the moment of me finding the logbooks and what that did over 10 years ago. And what that then launched and what you and I then both became, which is conduits to collecting queer histories and queer stories from people, their memories, moments, years, decades after they happened. So I started to think of us as the antenna.
As the antenna or aerials. Yeah.
Exactly. And the lightning being the moments of these lives that were lived back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And through us interviewing, becoming the antenna, we were collecting and tuning into all of these queer stories. But then I started to think about what happened to us in the process of collecting those stories, and how we didn't really quite know what we were doing. So I've got a couple of questions to ask you around this idea, and then I thought maybe we could talk more into it and sort of think about where my thinking's gone around this.
Okay.
Because it's all forming this long experimental poetic essay that I'm writing.
Okay,
so you're helping me with my research, Adam.
Okay, fine. And we want to talk about this like metaphor of us as the antennae picking up things from the queer elders and from like queer history or something.
Exactly. Okay. And also then the impact on becoming an antenna. So we'll come to that in a second, a bit later on. But I wanted to ask you, first of all, when do you think it was that you first felt you were sort of receiving something in the mode of these like queer histories and stories?
Well, I guess before we made the logbooks, I wrote a long feature article about the history of gay bars. And that was like my first piece where I felt, the first piece of work really, where I really felt like I was tuning in to like an LGBTQ plus history. And actually I look back on that piece now, and although it's fine, it's good, whatever, but like I look back on it now and think like it was quite, in a way, like it was quite basic, because since then I've read so many things and heard so much about like queer nightlife, the history of gay bars, and like some of it's really good and some of it's really actually quite easy to do, because there is so much history and so many memories recorded. So I remember thinking at the time like, oh wow, like it's almost like no one's heard this before. And that might be true for some of those people that I interviewed and some of those bars that I wrote about, but also it's something that's quite well, like it is quite well written about and quite well known now that I've gone further and looked wider and broader and everything. So I think that I felt like that early thing, and I think that was probably why I wanted to work on the logbooks, was because I had that sense of lots of stories that were out there that were, in that case, not only talking about bars and pubs and stuff, but like, you know, just every single aspect of life. So I think I was interested in that. I forgot what the question was.
No, that's great, because what that is like it's your first Sferic. And I really like what you're saying there about how it felt like, you didn't use this word profound, but it felt really meaningful to you, what you wrote. It was like this thing that you were like, I'm learning this. I want to talk to people about it.
Yeah.
But then latterly you've worked out that actually there are all of these other connections, and this is, a conversation that was already out there happening, but you hadn't connected to it. And I think it's that first point of moment around connection. And for me, it was definitely crawling into the crawl space and opening those logbooks. And, much like what you're saying then, when I opened the logbooks and I looked at all of these stories, they were new to me. They felt profound. They felt like hearing a Sferic for the first time. Like exciting. I felt like childlike. I felt full of curiosity and joy, but also a little bit scared, I think. Like, are these the sounds of lightning? Wait, what's that going to do to me? And I don't think I sort of like really connected that to it. And
I definitely think like, I remember being I went to Julius Bar in New York, in Manhattan, which is a very famous gay bar in I think it's in Greenwich Village. And it's very famous for having, being the site of a protest where a bunch of, the law was that a bar couldn't serve you if they knew you were homosexual. But how would you know someone's homosexual unless they, say so? So a bunch of gay activists went to that bar and said, hello, I'm homosexual. Can I have a beer? Or whatever it was. They rigged the press up so that there would be a photograph of the bar person having to refuse to serve them, and that would become a news story. So they knew as activists what they were doing, and to draw attention to this discriminatory law. And so I went to that bar, and it's a gay bar in the Village. It's very old, and it is one of those old gay bars that's been there forever. It seems to be there forever, and there's something about being in that space where you can pick up the feelings of the ghosts or the signals or the electricity, static, whatever it is in the air of this was a moment of history that this was a famous site of this famous sip-in, it was called. And there's a famous photograph from it that was in the newspaper. But also all of the other, as a gay bar, all of the other things that have happened there over I don't know, however many years, 60 years or something like that. All the people that have met there, the friends that have met there, the lovers that have met there and everything like that. Yeah,
I love that. That is so on point. Yeah. It's the movement into a space, once you have understood that you are an antenna or you've become something of it, maybe you don't realize you're receiving it, and suddenly you're then connecting to all of the things that have happened within that space before. And something similarly happened to me not that long ago. Last year, I don't know if you must have gone down to it, the AIDS memorial quilt was laid out at the Turbine Hall. And I went down one Sunday morning, and they did periodic readings of people who had died, and I went down to one of the readings, and it was really moving. Lots of our friends were reading out names of people who had died. Jonathan Blake was there, and he mentioned our friend George, who is no longer here, but it was all of these people collected together with the AIDS quilt on the floor. And then a couple of months ago, I was at the Turbine Hall for Tracy Emin's Late. And my friend Sophie, who is a queer DJ, was DJing to this crowd in the same room. And I was dancing, and I was surrounded by all of my queer friends. And I felt euphoria. I hadn't danced like that in so long. And then I remembered that I was dancing in the Turbine Hall almost a year to the day that I had been in the Turbine Hall, hearing the names of those we have lost to HIV and AIDS. And I had this real connected moment that felt like a Sferic that was pulling me back to a year ago from me, but somehow was connecting me all the way back to the 80s because of the space that was holding all of those memories within it. So I was...
tuning into something like the antenna.
Exactly. And it was a very bodily experience, like what you were describing in New York. There's something that you feel inherently inside of you. So I was trying to think about the impact on our bodies of doing this work. So not metaphorically, literally, what does it feel like in your body to be in those spaces, to hear these stories? And I wanted to ask you, how does it feel for you in your body to have spent, Adam, it's been 7 years plus. We met in 2019, but you'd already been doing this thinking and experiencing. Can you pinpoint a feeling within your body of how it has felt to be listening to these stories?
I feel like I'm going to disappoint you because I don't have bodily feelings as profound as you, I think, maybe. I don't know, and also I think that there's there are differences and overlaps when we talk about like you're saying how does it feel in your body, and you're also talking about you're talking about a physical thing, and you're also talking about a feeling, and a feeling obviously can be a physical thing. But I guess when you say like what's the effect on your body of doing this work, I think about like the repetitive strain injury of like using a mouse and using a keyboard to make a piece of digital work like a podcast, which I have. And I've had like shoulder issues and like arm things. I have to move my arm around a lot. And I'm not just being facetious there, but it's like it's work, isn't it? Yeah. So that's an experience that I have in my body. Also, when we go and interview people, and we did this a lot for the logbooks, those who live in London where we live, I use my bike a lot to get around. And so using my bike and like feeling the like power in my legs and my bum to get me around, like and like feeling like building up those muscles. So those things seem to be not directly connected to like the static electricity of the queer ghosts that we're talking about, but that's one way of feeling, and I don't know, it's up to you as a poet whether I love that connects.
I think it's great.
But also going to that gay bar Julius in New York, like I don't remember feeling anything like massive in my body except an intellectual thing and a quote unquote rational thing, which I do, which is mostly how I kind of seem to experience the world, is like, just like, oh, wow, this is cool that I'm here. And it's not like, I'm not like suddenly shook, or I'm not like suddenly like my heart is beating faster now than it was before I walked in here. Like I don't seem to have those kinds of experiences that much. Sometimes I do. I'm not saying that I don't. But I don't know. That's my kind of attempt at
I think that's great. No, it's great. And I'm really interested in the way in which we as people experience things really differently. And there is no better or worse way of experiencing it. And I love what you were saying about like your butt getting stronger and your thighs like changing shape because of the cycle rides that you're going on to be capturing these stories, because it's about your body as a physical thing becoming stronger to receive it. Even
maybe
in
that's
a very
the way we can monetize
thing.
the logbooks, Tash. Just pictures of my thighs and my butt.
But I think it's really interesting, and I'm really like fascinated by it. I feel everything very, very bodily, and as much in my mind as I do in my fingers, and there is that like connection to it. I also in the process of doing this work over the years, building up, especially post the tour and when we were doing the tour, I started to have a physical like breakdown. So I got like my eczema got really, really bad. I stopped being able to really sleep. I started to have this clicking in my ear. And this is a lot of where this thinking started to come from. And I started to make these connections because I was realizing my body was like disintegrating. I was having this physical impact that I couldn't ignore. And I was so exhausted. And I know we both had a physical exhaustion response to lots of the tour because it's physically very tiring. But there was also these emotional moments that were happening. And so this is where I started to make the connection of having become the antenna, thinking about the Sferics, thinking about the lightning. And then I was like, wow, this isn't metaphorical. What is the actual physical impact of being like a receiver of lightning in these instances, Sferics? Like, I'm not interested in metaphor. Like, how is my body experiencing this? I got my blood pressure went up. I have had to have my blood pressure monitored over the last like 4 or 5 months. And it's because of how I receive these things.
If you were like a pylon in the middle of a field, you like one of your legs would become a bit crooked and start to like flake. Bend and like one of the like cables would like snap off and twang and then like you would tilt a little bit and
exactly
the paint would start to peel off.
I'd be so wonky. Wonky and chaotic.
And I get it. I do know that there's a connection between the experiences that you have and what happens in your body, like, somatic experience. Like, I think that although there's a lot of maybe like, I think there's like the sort of like a traditional Western medicine idea that like, oh, these things are not necessarily connected or whatever. Obviously there are plenty of doctors and people who do say that they are connected. But there's also like from ancient traditions all the way through to today in lots of different parts of the world, like it's just known. It's like kind of ghosts. It's like, yeah, we might not be able to say exactly how or exactly what they are, but like we all know on one level, don't we, that these things are connected. And, you know, people do have real physical reactions to things that they're going through that's not directly, that doesn't seem to cause that physical reaction, but it actually does.
Yeah, totally. One of the things that happened for me was on our first ever tour event in Brighton, I woke up the next day, I don't know if you remember, but my neck cricked.
Oh, yeah.
And I completely seized up.
Yeah.
And then I did lots of exercises and things like that. And then one of the second to last events that we did was in Exeter, and my family came to that. And I woke up the next morning, seized neck. I am so basic and so not hard to like read into like what's literally happening inside of me. It's like I'm really struggling with the anticipation of the tour. My body seizes up. My parents being there and listening to me speak, my body seizes up. I'm like super basic when it comes to these things. But it is very much like how I experience the world. And so this metaphor of the spherics and the lightning and the physical way in which that's manifested on my body has been a really like helpful thing for me to sort of process. And I guess like the turning point for me was partway through the tour where like I just couldn't deal with it anymore, and like I found it really difficult to be able to continue to like move in my body, which is such a physical thing. And one of the things that we've spoken about already is like how we deal with these complex experiences and what we do to look after ourselves. And I told you before when we were talking about that I go to water and I turn to water. So then I was thinking about this in this wider like dialogue of Sferics about what happens when lightning strikes water.
Well, water conducts.
Yes, but it spreads.
Yeah.
And so instead of just being an antenna who feels all of that themselves, I go to water and I'm struck. And so the whole body of water helps me to hold it. So this is sort of like this dreamy thinking I've been going on around like the impact of it. And one of the things I like to think about a lot is now like how we care for ourselves and like what we do to look after it. And I think that a lot of what we've been experiencing is like the collecting of these stories, but witnessing a collective grief. And so I don't know where that's going to go next, but I've sort of been dancing in the Sferics and thinking about this, tuning into these queer atmospherics that are just zipping around all over the world, around us, and we're dancing within them. And there's nothing wrong with being an antenna that tunes into them, but there's an awareness that you need to have as part of it.
I mean, I think it's more broadly than our work and more broadly than just you and me. I think that it's good for everybody to know that that they are an antenna of a sort. They're picking up what's going on around them. You know, if you think about a child, like an infant, a 3-year-old whose parents are like fighting all the time and arguing, and that child like grows up with that feeling inside them of like, my parents are fighting and or they're going to abandon each other, they're going to abandon me, and that child picks that up. Like we say children are sponges, maybe they're antennae, but it's the same point of like, you know, we're all aware on a bodily level of what's going on around all the time. I think of like concepts of hysteria and how like from the 19th century or wherever, where it was women who were like having physical symptoms because of their experience of confinement or their experience of patriarchy, their experience of being not owning any money, not having very many social rights and political rights. And hysteria was like them fainting or collapsing or having a stroke or dying or having a heart attack and things like that, which was like a physical expression of their confinement as women and their like political confinement. And hysteria, you know, it comes from the root of like of the womb, isn't it? That, like, you know, you have a hysterectomy.
Exactly.
I don't know whether it's Latin or Greek. Someone's going to write in. But it's there. And so, it just that's what makes me think of, is that, like, those women are aware of their conditions, and they're like their body produces a physical reaction to that.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening. Of course, the medicalization and all the men said that, like, well, these women are just crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like lesser people because they're not men, and that's why they are failing as humans.
They can't deal with life.
They can't deal with life. And it's just that they couldn't deal with their confinement and their, like, lack of enfranchisement in society and politics and everything. But yeah, that's what it's the same with the kid who's, like, just absorbing stuff. You know, it's like you absorb stuff and then your body has a physical reaction.
Yeah, and I think what key takeaway from this all is that if your body is trying to tell you something, then maybe listen. And it takes me all the way back to that pylon. You know, me walking post this really quite emotional day I'd had listening to young trans kids tell me their stories. And this pylon was saying, hey, Tash, if you're going to keep doing this, watch out because a storm's coming. And now I think I'm so much better at understanding rituals and processes I need to have around doing this kind of work. But it takes me back to that moment as a sort of signal, all the way back to the Sferics, to the lightning. Thank you for letting me play around in these ideas, Adam.
I like it. Thanks for bringing pylons to the show.
It's been a total pleasure, and I'll let you know how the essay's going. It's going to be out, I think, in the autumn.
Oh, great.
So I'll let you all know when that happens.
Tash, what's next for you?
Oh, I'm actually going to be at Foyle's Pride Fest this weekend.
What's Foyle's Pride Fest?
Well, I mean, what a question. Excellent question. It's on Saturday, and there are a series of panel talks all about different LGBTQ plus topics. I'm in the, spoiler alert, history one. And there's also one on queer horror. There's one on lesbians. I think Johnny Woo is going to be DJing. So it's all at Foyle's in Charing Cross in central London. So come on down. I think tickets are available via the website.
DJing in a bookshop.
Yeah.
I love that. And chatting in a bookshop.
I know, it's going to be wild. Yeah. What about you, Adam? Oh, I know what you're doing.
Well, while this episode is actually coming out, I'm going to be on holiday, the much-trailed holiday. And so I was thinking about this, that while people are listening to this episode, I might actually be visiting the Alhambra in Granada in Spain, one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Yeah. And, it's this very ancient palace. And it reminded me that when I was, I guess I was probably about 18 or 19, and I bought a book by Washington Irving. It was like a travel book about the Alhambra with these gorgeous pictures and his writings in it. And that was a brief moment in my life of about 8 months where I collected quite a few like ancient travel book, like really old-fashioned travel books from like before the 1920s or like into the 19th century, which were usually quite like colonialist, in the lens.
I can only imagine.
And I just thought, maybe that's my life. I'm gonna collect antique travel guides, and that moment has passed.
Amazing. I have been to the Alhambra. It is stunning.
Oh, great!
It's so beautiful. I found it just like eyes wide. Yeah. It's really quite an astonishing feat. So maybe whilst you're there with your ancient travel books at the Alhambra, a wonderful ancient 7 wonders of the world, you can imagine the Sferics that I have left at the Alhambra.
Oh my God, yes. Wow. I'm just mostly looking for, some interior design inspiration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair. Well, thank you so much for listening, listeners. If you want to get in touch and tell us your story or what you would like us to talk about, then we are all ears.
Or draw a picture of yourself as a pylon. Send it to us.
Oh, yeah. Really into that, actually.
The Logbooks is an Aunt Nell production.
It is hosted and produced by Tash Walker and Adam Zmith.
The assistant producer is Mia Campbell. Music from Soundstripe.
Original artwork by Natalie Doto.
With thanks to the dreamboats at Acast.
Finding ways to be financially savvy is a smart move. And knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream home or new ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Quick question. When was the last time a display ad changed your mind? Now think about the last time a friend told you about something they loved. Different feeling, right? That's how podcast advertising works. A host who's built real trust with their audience talks about your brand in their own words, in their own voice. It doesn't interrupt the experience. It's part of it. With Acast, you can access the world's largest podcast marketplace. Choose the right shows, the right audiences, the right format. Then watch the data tell you it worked. You're not buying impressions. You're buying influence. Learn more by visiting acast.com/advertise.